Planning and Zoning Committee to order.
And I know originally when they tried.
My agenda here. First thing on here is a CSM request. All of northeast, 1/4 southeast, 1/4 section 25, east 22M, R15E, Brooks Homestead Holding.
I'll start with that, and we've got some people are here that can answer any further questions, but just to start is, this is, it was formerly the almost 40 acres up on Crest Street, a little down the road from Mystic Heights, and it was recently rezoned from agricultural to R1, and it was rezoned because in our agricultural district, the minimum lot size is 5 acres. So this is under 5 acres, so that's part of the reason for the rezone. The purpose of this CSM is for a single-family home on Lot 1, with the intent that the remainder of it at some time in the future may be a subdivision of single-family homes. The Allegheny County has reviewed it with the, for the access to Crest Street because it's a county highway, and they are okay with it. So I guess that's it, and we have some representatives here if you have any questions. They are the future homeowners that will be building on the property.
I guess I'll ask the question I always ask you, Bob. Why wouldn't we do this?
I don't know of any
Any reason not to?
objection. The property appears appropriate for the purpose intended. The area to the west of that has been rezoned R1 already.
Correct.
And this fits within the village 30-year...
Our comprehensive plan, this area is identified as future residential. And the property owners of Lot 2 also own property across the street to the west. All property owners within 300 feet have been sent this for their opportunity to be here and comment. I have not received any comments through email or otherwise on this parcel.
So if anybody was here to comment on it, they would be standing up now and saying something?
I would think so, if there's anybody that objects to this CSM.
You just mentioned that the current owners of Lot 2, Lot 2 right now is owned, do you know which Lot 2, the Hackberry Hills?
The remaining 35 acres.
No, not the Hackberry Hills, no, this is the other CSM.
Okay.
Yeah, so the remaining 35 acres is still owned by Brooks Holding,
Okay.
or Brooks Homestead Holding. And then, once this is approved, we will have 2 new Village Hortonville residents in the near future.
I'll make a motion to approve the CSM request.
I'll second it.
Is this approving or recommending?
Recommending.
To the village?
Sorry, recommending approval to the board. Sorry.
And it is on this Thursday's Village Board agenda for final approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Next on here is CSM request. All of lot number 3, CSM 5027, and unplatted land, all being part of the southeast quarter, section 25, T22 and R15E, Need Real Estate LLC.
And I'm not sure if this is still on.
No, this is, my client has requested to remove this from the agenda for today. The homeowners association is still reviewing the map. There's, I don't know all the details of it, but.
Okay,
And I did receive a comment from this one today, since
Okay.
I didn't know until today that this was being withdrawn. So I will have this for you if you would like it, so that you know for the next time I notify them that it probably isn't going to be on today.
Okay, can you just forward it to me?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
okay, we have nothing else to do on that. The next one is downtown zoning draft code.
Right, that should have been part of your packets, and there has been no changes from the last one. If you recall, that this came to, it started out with with the Downtown Zoning Task Force that started their project in 2016, June of 2016, I believe, excuse me, it was. And we had several public informational meetings to gather input, and we had some visioning sessions and so forth. We worked with the central. The group ended up developing this code. It went to the the Historical Preservation Committee and this commission, and both of those committees recommended approval to the village board. It went to the village board for a hearing in November, and we did have some input from the public, and so they asked me to bring it back to this commission to review for any of the comments. In its current state that you have in front of you, it has not changed from when you originally approved it or recommended approval. And I just got to find my paper here where the comments that we received on it, that the board wanted this committee to review and either take action to make changes or not, depending on what you choose, one was the owner of the multi-tenant commercial property on the south side that currently houses the Trinity Driving School, Nell and Company, it was Magnolia's, and then now the real estate company. Their comment was that the requirement that signage can only be 5% and only one on the street facing causes a difficulty for a multi-tenant building. So they are asking that we make an allowance for multi-tenant buildings to have more than one sign street facing so that each of their tenants could have signage. So that was that request, and
So
then
each of the tenants would be allowed whatever the square footage we set?
yes, that's what he was that's what that property owner had requested, and I.
Where is that right now, Diane?
Let's see, this is size. There, on the very first, on page 5, one sign per street frontage. This only limits number of signs on structure and not number of awnings and canopies. I think I left the actual email from him on my printer. But that's what the owner of the multi-tenant property was asking, is that we make an exception to multi-tenant properties. And that is the only one that we have in the downtown that's multi-tenant.
Did he have any recommendation regarding size?
Actually, if you give me a minute, I think I might have left that on the printer, because I did print up his email directly. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Hopefully it's there.
Is that the only?
The other comment was from regarding the allowed or permitted uses is car dealerships are not identified in the permitted uses, because the thought of the task force was that it's the space and everything that takes up is considerable for a downtown, especially one the size of ours. However, the current dealership would be grandfathered in, and the way grandfathering works is that it would be allowed in perpetuity until at least 50% of it gets wiped out, then it would not be allowed. Thank you, Lynn. And the other one would be if it ceased being a dealership for a period of 12 months or more, then it could not go back to being a dealership. If it was vacant or something else for 12 months, then it would not be able to go back to that. If it was under 12 months, then it would.
So that is that language a part of this, or does it have to be added, or is it just given that it's?
That's the current language. The person the resident that had questioned it said that he is concerned that, frankly, he just asked that his property be removed from the district. We have not established the district boundaries yet. We've proposed some possibilities, which would include this property because of the location and features of it. But that's still another process. We would still need to adopt the code with the language, and then we would also need to rezone the properties into the new district.
Okay, so the short answer is we would have to redistrict it to exclude Mike Murphy's work, basically?
We would need to not include it in the district. We haven't established the district
We haven't
yet.
established
Right now, this is
the
strictly establishing the code, the regulations associated with the district that has not geographically been created yet.
So technically, we wouldn't need to do anything with this document.
You would need to adopt it, the board would need to adopt it, establishing the new district, and then we would need to rezone properties into the new district
And how is that done?
through a rezone.
So
A
does
rezone
somebody have the
process.
ability to say, I don't want it in the district?
Legally, no. If we decided to include them, I guess they could be rezoned.
So is there a conflict there?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you said he was offering, he didn't want to be included in the district. You're saying he doesn't have the ability to do
Yeah, I
that?
mean, I'm saying generally, the board listens to such requests, so the board may very well decide that.
Would rezone it and just keep him on?
Yeah, keep him on, but if you're asking me, legally, can push come to shove,
Can we do it? We can't.
you can, whether or not you do it against his objection.
But there would
think, because I guess the staff's answer to that would be your grandfathered in for as long as you continue to have the current use, and it's only when you stop using it for that purpose that then it will become part of that zone.
Right, but even if we would rezone it, or even if we developed the district without him in it, and he went away, we could, as a board, envelop that property into the district?
They would require another separate.
Yeah, not exactly.
rezoning. So that would be the reason to do it if you thought, we really want that property in there, and so that when he does leave, that it makes sense to be a part of the district, and that would be the reason for it.
That would be a reason to include it now and just have the grandfather clause on it.
Yeah.
Diane?
Right. And I mean, I guess just from a staff perspective and planning background is I would, one, recommend approval of the language as it is regarding the car dealership, because I don't think we want any in the current downtown, forget it, excluding what we're talking about now, the specific one, we don't want another one there.
No, absolutely.
We don't want the
So,
corner.
not do anything with that language.
Right, so I would recommend keeping the language as it is regarding that, and from a planning perspective, completely objective on that part, as thinking strictly as a community planner, I would say that you include that in the district, because it is right there downtown.
And just with the knowledge that if he goes away, he's grandfathered in.
Right. But I understand that he doesn't want to be in, excuse me?
So he doesn't want to be in, is that going to be detrimental?
Well, I don't know, I think it requires further discussion at that point in time.
Yeah.
But we're not sure.
Because when he got notice that this was happening, he didn't know what was,
Okay.
exactly. That was his concern.
So that's really kind of a hurdle we can come to later.
Yes.
Correct.
got it.
But
So
we
that-
can't say to him that we would unequivocally exclude him from the district.
I wouldn't say that at this point, I think it's too early.
I think if he understood that it's really not going to affect him at all, I don't know why he would have a problem with it, if he understood the long-term reason why he would do that.
And I did sit down with him after the meeting, I went and visited him there and explained the grandfathering and answered his questions, and he does still not want to be in
He
it.
still does not want to.
Correct, but like Bob said, I think that's something that as we move into the next step of this, we need to first establish the district, then we need to start adding properties.
Okay.
And then the other part is in regarding the sign. So here's what the Patrick McNichols requested, that if the regulation could be amended to offer the ability for a multi-business building to utilize 15% of the total street frontage area for the total area of all signs, and allow for one sign for each business in the building. He feels that would remove the conflict. So I would say, I think his 15% is reasonable. I would say and allow one per sign per tenant, because then that could exceed the 15%. I would say 15%, and however that be partitioned off. I mean, if one takes up 15%, then you don't want 4 more.
What about putting in language to limit the total to 15%? And
Right.
it's up to them how they divvy.
Does that come in on page 8, Diane?
It's,
Top of page 8?
What is page 5?
Well, at the size. Page 5 just had like one sign per building, right?
right,
At
And
the
then-
top of page 8, is that applicable, the wall sign?
right. I would say, up to, or 15% for multi-tenants in that part.
Otherwise 5%?
Right. So 15% for multi-tenant buildings, and then on page 5, under the very first part where it says one sign per street frontage, I would say, maybe for multi-tenant buildings, one per tenant up to a maximum of 15% of the area. I mean, if that's something that you guys, feel we should accommodate, which I personally,
I think it's a legitimate question that needs to be addressed.
yeah. So like multi-tenants, maximum of 1 per tenant, up to 15% of the,
A total of 15%?
yeah,
For total.
yeah, for a total of 15%.
Or a total of no more than.
Yeah,
Other than those couple of recommendations, everything else is as we have approved it before.
yes, and the only other comments made at the public hearing was a little baffling because it was about not being notified, and I think you remember that conversation. And just to give this group as far as not being notified, it was I counted 3 newsletters that are directly mailed to all people within the village. It was in twice in the Press Star, once in the Appleton paper. We actually had myself at one time going door to door downtown. We had officers handing out flyers. We had it on Facebook. We had it in our village notices.
We went literally above and beyond.
Yeah, we were actually complimented by East Central for the amount of outreach we tried to do, so I,
Somehow reach out to personally reach out to the people that wanted to be here, so.
but they didn't have any comments regarding the content of the zoning
It had nothing
code.
to do with the content of it, it was just had to do with,
So what I guess what I would ask for is a motion to recommend approval to the village board with that change regarding the signage. And we do not have to have a public hearing again, correct? So recommend for approval with those changes.
Okay. I move that we approve this with those changes on page 5, the 1 sign per tenant for a multi-tenant up to 15% of the wall area, and on page 8, it was 15% for multi-tenant.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. We'll go to board.
Thanks, Dave.
Number 5, institutional zoning district.
Okay, this one is, it's been a while since we've met, and if you recall, there was some case law that's basically gutted our sign ordinance, because no signs can be based or regulated based upon content. So if we regulate them in a manner that requires you to read them, then it's not allowed. So what this did is, among other things, what caused some issues, is that our schools and churches are in the single-family residential zoning district. In the past, we regulated like signs and we made special exceptions for churches and schools in that district, but now we can't do that because how do you know it's a church or a school unless you read the sign? So the way to remedy that issue, because otherwise we have to have the same zoning or same regulations for all uses in that district then, as far as the signs. So a way to remedy that is to create separate district, which I just call institutional here, sometimes it's called campus, that puts different regulations, separates out school campuses and churches from residential. And this is really good regardless of the sign issues, because schools have changed a lot from back when the zoning code was created. And actually, if you look at our school campus, the whole area is in violation right now because our single-family residential school district only allows one accessory detached building. Well, we have a parcel with 3 schools on it, so each of the remaining 2 schools are in violation, technically. So what a lot of communities are doing is creating this separate zoning district. So that's what I propose that Hortonville does. I don't know when I'm going to have the time to do it right now with things that we have going on, and I know Bob is the same way. But I just wanted to first introduce that idea. It might be something that we would need to look into, getting East Central's help again, or maybe contracting out, because we don't have the staff resources right now to do it. And I do think it's a high priority because, like I said, right now, everything's really kind of in limbo because of it. I did, as part of the, actually the variance request by the school for the scoreboard, Steve Romas from Blue Design Group was at that meeting, and I had mentioned that this is what I think we should do moving forward, and he said he would like to be a part of that process too. So I think he would be able to provide some good insight. So I suggest what we're probably going to need to do is, again, create a task force to work with East Central to work on a new zoning district. So I don't need any motion or anything. I just wanted to bring that up to you since we already are having the meeting for the other items. So this is something that we'll be moving forward on. I don't know when.
Any questions on it? If none, we'll move on to zoning violations.
This is just to update you. I know those of you that were on the commission last year knew that we went through a long period trying to clean up the Crest Street property. That has been cleaned up, although we do need to readdress that with some fence issues at some point. So that one's been cleaned up. Bob and I are currently working on the property behind the wire factory on Douglas Street. That one's been kind of challenging because it's bank-owned, and that always puts a new spin on it. I currently have a letter out to get some cleanup done on the apartments on Lakeview because there's some abandoned vehicles in the parking lot and garbage, illegal dumping. So we do have a letter out to that property owner requiring cleanup by March 16th. And on that date, then I'll follow up and do another drive-by to see if it's been cleaned up. And then some other ones, we had some complaints during the 6 months since this group has met. One of them was across the street from the toy factory on Spruce, and that's since been cleaned up. So, and periodic ones here and there, abandoned furniture and so forth. So I kind of think because we've been trying to stay on top of them and we are being more active on it, I think it seems to be it's kind of lessening up.
It's better.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's getting a little better, so we're still working on it. We plug away on those zoning violations when we're aware of them and keep working on it.
Thank you.
Next, we have next meeting date as needed.
Yeah, I'll be in touch when I suspect that the CSM will come back again. The one that was on Grandview, that was on the schedule, or on the agenda tonight and then pulled. I don't really foresee any, there's nothing else that that's looming out there that I know is coming forward as a potential request, not at this point. But as I get any rezone requests or anything else that requires action, I've kind of not gotten the group together unless I have something specific that needs action. And then I bring the other stuff in, so I'll keep doing that.
And then are we looking at the second Tuesday, August 16th?
Yeah, and I lost track of which one.
We talked about the first Tuesday, but then we've got, traditionally, we've done the second Tuesday.
A couple of people had problems, so we switched it, but I don't know, is that still the case with the group or not.
Well, Roger told me today, I saw him in the hallway, that he said that until the church is done, it's every Tuesday for him that he has meetings. So it's just Tuesdays until the church project is done.
On Boyd too, I imagine that's where he was heading.
Mark is not part of the committee. He was wondering why his wife told him that there was an economic development meeting tonight.
Oh,
And I told him, no, there wasn't, so he left.
next week.
I
Yeah,
was
we're-
wondering if Mark had been placed on, okay, so.
Yeah, we're working on an economic, and we didn't have it scheduled yet. We've got a tentative, okay.
But how about the rest of you? I mean, is this,
As long as I have notice, for me, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, my only conflict is the fact that I'm still the head boys golf coach at the high school. And I was looking at my schedule and we are peppered with Tuesdays. We've got all kinds of them in there. And being in the FBA now, I could be in Fond du Lac, for example, and it's like I'll never make it back, you know.
so until, in June, does that open up then?
Yeah, once the state tournament is done.
And I'm involved with the boys' baseball team, so,
Same thing.
and we
One's
have
finished and one
games
starts.
Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, so.
And then it's, you know, God forbid you get rained out or something like that one day and then they'll reschedule it for Tuesday. And it's like, if the Tuesday is open, I'll grab it. And it's like, I don't know.
Well, and what we did this time was just, we had the CSMs that we had the request to get it on as soon as we could, and so we just kind of pulled everybody. I mean, we could just do that if it's something that, you know, like Kelly, you said, quote, it's a crapshoot, so it sounds like Tuesdays aren't good. I mean, we could just, you know, pick up, you know, if there's a certain week or 2 week frame where we'd like to have a meeting and just see when we can get
Just pull everybody in the quorum dates, yeah. Get a quorum. That'll work for me.
Oh, and then, I'm sorry, the last thing, this was in your packets, is that there's some, a panel